Talking Point with Ashley Andrew.
And we're shining a light all this week on mental health. This morning, we're going to look at particularly mental health in young people. 1 in 5 children and young people in England aged 8 to 25 had a probable mental disorder. That's a new survey that reported on that. Well, a new survey a couple of years ago. Georgia Mutton is a children and young people's wellbeing practitioner at the YMCA in Exeter. She's trained to work alongside 5 to 18-year-olds struggling with low mood, anxiety and behavioural difficulties. Georgia, what are the short-term interventions that you use to support children and young people with mild to moderate mental health difficulties?
So we have a different range of interventions. So each one kind of works towards specific presentations. So we've got some for things like social phobia, panic, generalized anxiety. So all of the toolkits focus on different elements. So within low intensity cognitive behavioral therapy, you're looking at both your thoughts, which is the cognitions, and the behaviors. So each of the interventions focus on one of those. Some might focus on both, like you're testing out your thoughts, and you do that by going and doing something, so it's kind of working on those behaviors as well. Or you might learn to manage your worries. So you might look at just the thoughts. How can you manage those? So each of our interventions can focus upon kind of those different elements, and we work together for about 6 to 8 weeks working through those. One client in particular that I worked with, he had generalized anxiety, and he couldn't go with the flow. He needed to know what the plan was. He needed to have all the information there. He was always worrying, what if? It's kind of like whack-a-mole, generalized anxiety. You kind of like hit a mole and then another one pops up. And for him, that's what it was like. And this young boy, he wanted to be able to go for sleepovers. Like he couldn't go for sleepovers. He's 11 years old and he was just, what have I forgotten this? What have I forgotten that? And it was really, really hard for him. And so we worked on an intervention called worry management. And this is one where you learn to kind of organize your worries into ones that are important and can be solved, or ones that are important but can't be solved, and you learn different techniques for those. So an example of that would be worry time. So for the important worries that can't be solved, you spend about 10 minutes each day. Kind of, you pick a specific time, you do the same time every day, and you worry about all the things that you can't control, all the things that you can't kind of change and manage. And then once you've done that, you kind of leave them there, and that's it. That's worry time done. And then the other skill is for the ones that are important and can be solved. And those ones are where you then learn problem solving skills. How can you kind of solve this? What could you do? So, for example, the sleepover, could you pack the night before? Could you get mum to check? Things like that. And actually, by the end of the 8 weeks I worked with this young person, they were able to go for a sleepover, and it was just incredible. And it was just such a joyful moment for this boy. And that's kind of the sort of stuff that we do. We help all kinds of presentations, whether it's small, whether it's a little bit more kind of moderate anxiety, depression. Like, we kind of use these tools to help them achieve some of those goals that they'd love to do and get the joy back in life being a young person.
There's such a change because it's a broad range of from 5 to 18-year-olds, a broad spectrum of age ranges that you work with, and a lot can happen in a child's development around that time. I'm thinking, of course, about the season that we're in right now for some students, with it being exam season. Can you share some of your tips and practices? Because maybe some people don't have the 6 sessions that they can book in for just now, because by the time they do that, exam season would be over. What are perhaps some of the ways that students and young people can manage that level of stress and pressure that they're currently under?
Yeah, definitely. I think when it comes to exams, that is a problem that can be solved. So in many ways, we encourage young people to sit down and kind of work out, okay, how can I help myself to think about how to prepare for this exam? It's scheduling things in like brain breaks like this. Like, people are like, no, the more I cram, the more revision I can get done. But actually, that's actually not helpful, and it kind of hinders your learning in that time. So we just encourage young people to take a break, go for a walk, get out in fresh air. Like, exercise does wonders for your mental health. Learning techniques like breathing techniques as well can be really helpful. You can do like finger breathing, where you trace your finger, and every time you go up a finger, you breathe in, and every time you go down your finger, you breathe out. And actually, I would do that underneath the table in my exams when I'm having a moment and I'm like, I really don't know what the answer is. Just do a bit of breathing, calm yourself down, and actually, once you're regulating again, you can think clearer. So like, lots of tips like that, just taking those breaks, eating well as well. I think people don't realize actually panic will rise. Like, the symptoms of feeling hungry also intensify those panic symptoms. So just making sure you're having regular snacks throughout the day, keeping your brain fueled, is really, really important.
I am learning so much right now. I'm also currently breathing along with, like, moving along my finger and breathing now in a different way. I'd want to ask you, Georgia, it might not be something that perhaps is an area of expertise, but certainly something that will probably come up in sessions with young people. And I'm thinking about social media. The government have done the hokey cokey around this, looking perhaps towards a ban and then backed away from that. We're not at that stage yet here in the UK, but in what, in your sessions, what role has social media played to aggravate maybe an underlying level of anxiety? How has that maybe made it worse, and what damage perhaps has been caused, and how can people be more aware of how much time they spend on socials?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's so much out there. There's so many content like producers now on Instagram and TikTok. And I think there's a real pressure on young people to be like producing TikTok videos, to learn these dances, to look the way that everyone else does, have those clothes. And I think I've noticed it myself. Like I actually came off Instagram for a little while because I was like, I feel unhealthy. I'm always like, oh, I've not got enough, or I'm not, doing well enough. And those kind of intrusive thoughts come in massively when you're on social media. So I think it's massively to blame for a lot of stuff. And I think a lot of young people as well spend so much time on their phones that they don't learn how to communicate in the real world. So they don't know how to, express their feelings because they're always just stuck behind a screen, which is really tricky. And I definitely think like having like screen limits, like I've put a limit of like 40 minutes. That's all I'm allowed on Instagram. And actually, that limit came up the other day and I thought, great, like that's me for the rest of the day. I'm done. Like I don't need to worry about what's going on social media. I can just be present in what I'm doing. So I definitely say time limits are really helpful, and just being aware of what you're following. Actually, if you're noticing those like intrusive thoughts coming up that you don't feel like you're comparing to that person well or whatever it is, just unfollow them. Like it's so freeing to do that. And it's really important to do that because I think that's when we're noticing a lot social phobia is rising. Like it's because of social media. It's all those sorts of things are coming up and we're worried about how we look, and it's not helpful for any young person. So I definitely say just watch your limits, notice what your thoughts are when you're on it, and pay attention to those thoughts because they're really important.
One of the things that we as adults, we can say about our situation is that things are never going to change. And that can sometimes get passed on to the next generation. Things are always going to be like this. If I come to you in particular and your personal journey, because people who are right in the middle of exams or in school, they maybe think they're going to go into a particular career. That was not the case for you. Tell us a bit about your journey into becoming a wellbeing practitioner.
Yeah, so I actually did an undergraduate in marine and natural history photography, which is completely different to children's therapy. And I think at the time, actually, this is really a real message I want to get out to so many kids. Like, don't feel the pressure to have to go straight to university. I didn't think I was academic. I didn't think I could do anything particularly intelligent. So I thought I'll just do photography. And don't get me wrong, it opened some incredible doors. I worked for 3 summers in northern Cyprus with turtles on a conservation project, and it was wonderful. But actually, that's not the career I'm now, in. So just take your time and work out what it is you want to do. And parents probably hate me for saying that, but it's so important too because there's such a pressure to go straight to uni. And actually, I went to YWAM, which is Youth with a Mission. And it was in the time that I was in YWAM that somebody gave me this picture that they saw. And it was kind of these children sat in darkness kind of either side of me in like a row. And as I walked through that row, light bulbs came on over their heads. And I kind of thought, no, I'm not going to work with kids. Like, that's not what I want to do. Like, it was just quite a funny moment. And actually, the client I was telling you about earlier, the one who with the worry management, he drew me a picture on his final session as a thank you. And he drew a picture of this lighthouse. And he wrote the words, "You were the light in the darkness." And that just like shook me because I was like, oh my goodness, this was God's plan all along. Like this was what I was meant to be doing, working with these kids, being this children's therapist. So it wasn't the journey I thought it was going to be walking into this, but actually I'm fully doing like what God's called me to do. And yeah, life has a funny way of kind of changing the direction of where you go, but just be open to that, I think, because you never know. Like, don't write it off. You've got your whole life ahead of you. You've got many options of places you can go.
We saw in the King's speech yesterday, I mentioned it earlier on, about the bill being drafted around conversion therapy, and not wanting to ask you specifically about that, but I wanted to ask you, given your position and your strong faith, how difficult do you find it is to hold back on perhaps giving out a Bible verse, offering to pray for a young person if that is not particularly their beliefs?
Yeah, within our professional space, like we can't push, like though we are a Christian organisation, we can't push faith onto people or to bring up faith. But if a young person like opens the conversation, then at that point, because they've invited us into that, we can share with them and say, oh, I'm actually a Christian, I believe in this. So it's based on the young person and what they feel. But like our job is never to judge people. Our job is to just love them, and that's kind of what we aim to do. And I think sometimes people think if they come here that it might be that we push faith on them or whatever it might be because we're a Christian organisation, but that's not the case. We treat everyone equally. Our job is to just love them and help them no matter what they're thinking, what their decisions are on that. So yeah.
Now I'm aware that the sessions you offer are free, so tell people how to access those.
Yeah, so there will be local charities all over the country that provides low intensity cognitive behavioural therapy. We are really fortunate in that we can offer sessions online as well. So if you are looking for this support, please do visit our website, YMCA Exeter /Wellbeing, and it will take you to our page where you can enter a referral form. It's basically just asking for kind of key information, age, name, all that sort of stuff. And then also what's the kind of main difficulties, what does that look like for you, so that we can understand what the impact is before, whilst we screen, to make sure that we are the right service to give that support. But our promise is that, even if it's not the right support, we will signpost you to the place that you can go where you can get that, because it's so important that every young person gets that support and then no one falls through those cracks, and we're very passionate about that. So yeah, go onto our website, look for local charities around you. There's a website called Cooth, which in the meantime, if you are on a wait list at all, is fantastic. It's an anonymous website where you can chat with people live. There's web pages of conversations that people have that you can join in on, and you just get to see so many other people going through the same struggles as you are. You're not alone, and it's a really encouraging website to go to. So if you're 13 and over, you can go onto that, and it's absolutely fantastic. And for parents, if you've got younger kids lower than 13, there's a book called Helping Your Child with Their Fears and Worries by Kathy Creswell. It is actually one of the interventions we do, parent-led intervention, and it's based on this book, and it's basically gives you all the tools you need to support your young person with their worries and their fears. And it's so easy to read. It's a really easy, straightforward book. You can listen to it on Spotify as well, and it's absolutely fantastic to support your child, ask curious questions, help them to understand their worries, and maybe how as a parent you might actually be maintaining those worries, because sometimes we accidentally do that. So that's a fantastic book as well. So those are just a couple of resources I would utilise.
Really helpful. Just spell the website for us, the Cooth website.
Cooth. If you just type in cooth.com, it will come up on Google. If you just type in Cooth, it will.
Great. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you so much for being my guest. And we wish you all the very best, given the fact that clearly God's hand has been on your career. So we just pray that you are able to continue some great conversations with young people. Thank you so much for being my guest on Talking Point.
Thank you.